Yo, what's going on guys? Plunge here and welcome back to another video. So it's been a while since we reacted to any basketball content or any basketball clips. So today I want to change that. We're going to be reacting to how good was Kobe's 2006 season. This video is made by Uncut, so make sure you go to his channel. You'll hit like, you subscribe because he's the one who made this video. So yeah, I know his 2006 season was very good in the season, but not the playoffs. This was the infamous season where he scored 81 points, where he averaged 35 points per game. It was just crazy. It was probably one of the craziest scoring seasons in the modern era of NBA. So yeah, I know it's good, but postseason, not really. He got bounced out in the first round by the Phoenix Suns. They were up 3-1 and then they blew the lead. So that sucked. But yeah, I still think this was a very good Kobe season. So I'm interested to see what he's gonna say about Kobe's 2006 season. So yeah, with that being said, let's go watch how good was Kobe's 2006 season.
Kobe Bryant is one of the most influential and iconic players in NBA history, and quite frankly, he's one of the best. And saying that is not breaking news. It's not some huge revelation. Everyone knows Kobe is one of the best players of all time. And depending on who you ask, they'll talk about different things. His amazing dunking ability, his amazing footwork, his technical skills, his uncanny ability to hit the big-time dagger shots, or maybe even his great mentality.
He's really good at hitting tough shots.
But always the first thing that comes to mind when talking about Kobe as a basketball player is his great scoring ability,
two defenders,
and how he could
Wade
turn a
and
30-point
Vince.
night into a 50-point night at the drop of a hat. And that explosive scoring ability separates Kobe from virtually every other scorer in NBA history. And when talking about Kobe's best scoring years, I always come back to his 2006 season.
It sucks
now,
that he didn't have a good team
video,
around him
I'm gonna
that
ask
time.
you guys to please subscribe if you haven't already.
He could have had a
please like
deep
this
playoff
video.
run.
That would help me out a lot. Now, the second thing I have to do is give some quick background information leading up to the 2006 season. So, as you guys know, Kobe, before the 06 season, he was a three-time NBA champion, and him and Shaq were established as one of the best duos of all time. But like with many relationships, there was strain over time, and Kobe and Shaq, they had to mutually part ways. And that sent Shaq to Miami, and that left Kobe in Los Angeles by himself with a subpar supporting cast. In his first year without Shaq, it did not go great, and did not go according to plan, as the Lakers had a 34-48 record, and they missed the playoffs, with Kobe only playing 66 games. Now, that quick summary brings us to the 2006 season, where Kobe once again would have a subpar supporting cast that featured Lamar Odom, Smush Parker, Chris Mim, Kwame Brown, Devin George, and Luke Walton. Definitely not a great supporting cast by any means, and by the majority of people's standards, a subpar supporting cast at that. But what makes it even worse and even more difficult is that Kobe was playing the tough Western Conference. You had teams like Tim Duncan's Spurs, Dirk's Mavs, Steve Nash's Suns, even Elton Brand's Clippers are pretty good, and you had the young Denver Nuggets and the young Utah Jazz. So the Western Conference, it was deep, and it was tough to make the 8th seed, and most years you had to win anywhere from 42 to 43 games to even qualify for the playoffs. So with all that in mind, let's start looking at Kobe's 2006 season, and I'll show you guys how impressive it really was. Now, the first thing I do want to look at is Kobe's scoring from month to month.
Definitely.
In November, he averaged 33.5 points per game. In December,
he had the month where he averaged 40, right?
In January,
yes,
he averaged a ridiculous
freaking 43 points per game.
That was the
How
most
insane was that?
In February, he averaged 31.5 points per game.
Insane,
in
bro.
March, he averaged 34.0 points per game. And in April, he averaged 41.
Okay. I knew he averaged 40 in a month. I didn't know he did it twice. God damn, look at this. 43.4 and then 41.6, almost 42 points. That's insane. You're really averaging 40 points. Like how? This is in the modern era too, 2000s, where the pace of the game was very slow, unlike in Will Chamberlain's era where the pace of the game was very fast, so more opportunity to score. This was the 2000s, one of the slowest eras in scoring in NBA history. So this was really insane. Kobe was insane, man. Jesus.
1.6 points per game, his second 40-point month of the year. Now, in total for this year, Kobe would average 35.4 points per game. That led the NBA, and it ranked 9th all-time, 3rd of the modern era. And what makes it more impressive is that Kobe
the pace was really slow.
Slowest pace eras of all time. And the 2006 season was actually the 5th slowest pace year in NBA history. So to adjust for pace, I would look at the per 100 stats, and when you look at that, Kobe this year is the 3rd highest scoring season in NBA history.
Insane.
Now, per 100 stats, they are good for adjusting for pace, but they don't adjust for the defensive ability of players in the mid-2000s. Because in my opinion, the mid-2000s and the early 2000s were the best defensive era in NBA history.
Really?
And right now, in this moment in time, we don't have a formula or any stat to adjust for the great defense. Now, like I said before, Kobe was one of the most explosive scorers in NBA history, and this year, he had 27 40-point games. That is 9th all-time and 4th in the modern era. When it came to 50-point games, he had 10.
He's
that
got
was the 3rd most
10
ever,
50-point
and 1st
games
in the modern era. And 60-point games, he had 2, which is tied for 4th all-time and 2nd in the modern era. And just some other interesting scoring facts. This year, Kobe had 5 consecutive 40-point games. That is 10th all-time. And when it came to the most points scored in a half, Kobe had 55 versus the Raptors. That was 1st all-time. And he had 40 versus the Clippers. That is 6th most all-time. And he's the only player with multiple 40-point halves.
Dude was scoring anywhere he wanted.
In NBA history. He had 7 games with 20-plus points in a quarter. That is 3rd all-time. And he had 3 games with 20-plus points in the 4th quarter overtime. That is 4th all-time. So I think that is a good segue into our next category, which is how good Kobe was in the 4th quarters and the second halves of games during this year. So when it came to 4th quarter scoring, Kobe averaged 9.5 points per game.
Wait.
His first NBA, and he had 700.
Wasn't also this the leading? Like, I know there's a list of players who scored the most points in 4th quarter games. I think Isaiah Thomas was second. That was his 20. What year was that when Isaiah Thomas was, scorching the lead? Was that 2016, 17? I don't know, but this still ranks as first till this day. 2006 Kobe. So that's insane. Kobe was clutch, man.
15 total points. That was also first NBA and first all time. When it came to second half scoring, Kobe averaged 18.5 points per game. That was first NBA, and he had 1,479 second half points. That was also first in the NBA and first all time. And when it came to clutch time scoring, the last 5 minutes of a game within 5 points, Kobe averaged 4.2 points per game. That was first in the NBA, and he had 167 clutch time points, which was 4th in the NBA. So at this time, Kobe was one of the best clutch time players, one of the best 4th quarter players, and one of the best late game closers. And that ability to be great in the 4th quarters is a reason a lot of fans loved watching Kobe Bryant. Now, somewhere where Kobe did not receive a lot of love was in the 2006 MVP race, as Steve Nash would win his second consecutive MVP with really subpar numbers and not in.
Okay, so I wanna learn your thoughts on this. Did Steve Nash deserve his second MVP? Because I think he definitely deserved his first. The second one though, I don't think so. That should have been to Kobe. That should have been to Kobe. That's my opinion, at least. I want to know your opinions down below. Did Steve Nash deserve his second MVP, or do you think that it should have went to someone else? I definitely think it was Kobe's.
MVP caliber play, and Kobe had the second most first place votes, but finished 4th overall when it came to total votes. Now, the MVP has a lot of factors that go into it: how great you are stats wise, how good your team is, and how valuable you are to your team. Now, the case I would make for Kobe for deserving the 06 MVP is that he had the best stats of the top 4 voters, better stats than Dirk, better stats than LeBron, and definitely better stats than Steve Nash. Now, when it came to total wins, Kobe had 45 in the tough Western Conference, and that was with a supporting cast that, like I showed you guys, was subpar and not up to standards. And LeBron James, he would win 50 games with also a subpar cast, but that was in the Eastern Conference, an inferior conference to the West.
that was
Now,
the
Dirk
weaker
and Nash,
conference
they
that
would
time.
each win 50-plus games, but like I said before, the individual seasons from both those players, I do not think was up to the par of a Kobe Bryant. And the last thing, and my last case for Kobe deserving the 06 MVP, is how valuable he was to his team. Steve Nash, his on-off rating was a plus 9.1. LeBron's was a plus 10.4.
That's insane.
And Dirk's
10.4.
was a plus 8.2.
LeBron's is insane too.
Kobe's was a plus
Okay, that just blew it out of the water.
12.5. A full 2 points ahead of LeBron James, 3 points ahead of Steve Nash, and 4 points ahead of Dirk. And one other quick fact that shows Kobe's value, with him on the court for this Lakers team, they had an offensive rating of 111.3. That would have been the 3rd best in the NBA. But when Kobe was off the court, they had an offensive rating of 92.4. That would have been the 3rd worst offensive rating in NBA history. So right there, I rest my case as Kobe being the MVP for this 2006 season. Now, the last thing I do want to talk about for Kobe this year is his offensive versatility and his great shooting from everywhere on the court. When it came to shots less than 8 feet, Kobe shot 58%. From the 8 to 16 foot range, the mid-range, Kobe was a 45% shooter. The 16 to 24 foot range, Kobe shot 42%. And from 24 feet back, Kobe shot 35%. All great shooting splits for a high volume score. Also, some other important stats that show how versatile Kobe was in scoring. When it came to shots in the paint, but not in the restricted area, Kobe shot 50%. When it came to strictly just mid-range, he shot 42.4%. When it came to left corner threes,
He hates that
shot
right corner three, huh?
47.4%. When it came to right
bad.
corner threes, he shot 28.0%. And when it came to threes above the break, he shot 35.0%. So really the only weakness for Kobe was that right corner three. Everywhere else on the court, he was lights out and shooting very efficiently. And during this year, Kobe shot 66.3% on fadeaways and 76.5% on turnaround jump shots, once again showing his amazing offensive arsenal. Now, this year for Kobe and the Lakers, it would not end with a championship. It would actually end with a first-round exit as the Lakers
That was probably the
went through and
toughest
lead
part of
Steve
his
Nash's son.
season.
But during that series,
They
Kobe
blew a
gave us
3-1
some
lead.
very memorable moments. He averaged 27.9 points per game on 50, 40, and 77 splits. He had a 50-point game, and he had 2 clutch game winners. And that series was high intensity and high drama as the media was at their peak with criticizing Kobe's play. They were calling him a ball hog, saying he wasn't passing to teammates. And effectively in Game 7, Kobe, he did what the media wanted him to do, and he started passing the ball and not shooting it.
A little
and by
bit
doing
too
that
much.
in a weird way, he kind of showed how valuable he was to the Lakers team, as they didn't have a chance if Kobe wasn't shooting the ball and wasn't scoring at his 35 point per game clip. Now that's kind of a bittersweet ending to a very impressive season, but this year for Kobe, I think, was one of the best years of his career, and individually, you could argue it's his best year based off stats and data and just watching the games. I wouldn't agree with that, but I'm not going to push back against someone who would. And in the 21st century, this scoring year by Kobe, taking into account era, spacing, pace, I would say it's easily the best scoring season of the 21st century. And when it comes to the greatest scoring year of all time, I think it comes down to 2 years, Jordan 87 and Kobe in 2006. So I think that right there is a good note to end this video. I hope I showed you guys how impressive Kobe's 2006 season was. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
Alright, looks like that was it. Very entertaining video. Very informative as well. Okay, so that was how good was Kobe Bryant's 2006 season. I think the only thing that is bad in this is obviously the playoffs because, you know, he got bounced out in the first round. They had a 3-1 lead and they blew it. And there was this interview, I think that was Chuck or Ernie who was interviewing Kobe, and then he said, you should know when it's time to like push on the pedal, because I think that was the game 7. Kobe was trying to prove a point that without his scoring, this team won't even be in the playoffs right now. And I think that sucks. I think Kobe shouldn't have done that. I think that was just really him trying to prove a point that this team need me. I'm not a ball hog. I need to score in order for this team to thrive. And yeah, I think that sucked too. But in the regular season, he was definitely a beast. He averaged 40 points in 2 separate months, which is insane. 40 goddamn points. That's how many points some people have as their career highs, and Kobe is literally out here averaging it in a month. And the MVP case, I think the thing that hurt his MVP case was obviously his team success. They were the 8th seed. I'm right? They're the 8th seed. So they're the 8th seed or 7th. I don't really remember. And he didn't really have a good season, a good team record, I should say. So that's what hurt his stats. But I think the reason that happened is because he didn't have a good supporting team. He was in the West, where it was a tougher conference. So yeah, like he said, there were a lot of good teams in the West that time. Steve Nash's Suns, obviously Tim Duncan was there. So it's really hard to compete if your conference is so tough and you have a mediocre team. I think that's just what sucks overall in Kobe's career, where throughout his prime, he didn't have a good supporting cast. I mean, imagine how many rings he would have gotten. He would have gotten more than 2. I'm saying he would have gotten more than 2 without Shaq if he had a good supporting cast from 06 to 2010. Because he definitely hit his prime in 2006, 7, 8, 9. He slowly declined in 2010, but he had a resurgence in 2012 and 13. So imagine how many rings or how his playoff success would have been better if he had a good supporting cast. If they had Gasol earlier, or if the NBA didn't veto the trade between Chris Paul and the Lakers, that would have helped tremendously to Kobe, especially down the line where he got older, his athleticism started to fade away, and Chris Paul being there would have taken the load out of Kobe. He could have, shot less, rested more, because he didn't have to do the playmaking. He was during the 2013 season, there was a time where he became the point guard. There was a time where he was averaging I think 10 assists and 18 points. Very Magic Johnson like. So yeah, that definitely took a toll on him, and then his body gave up on him. He tore his Achilles. So how good was Kobe's 2006 season? For me, it was definitely good. It was a beast. It was definitely one of the best scoring seasons in the modern NBA history, and it was definitely insane. We saw a Kobe Bryant who was hungry and who was just scoring everywhere in the court, whether it be the paint, the mid-range, and the three-point shot. He was making it. He was getting 80 points, getting 40, 50, 60-point games, which was very insane. So yeah, the only thing that sucked in this was definitely the playoffs. But what do you guys think of Kobe Bryant's 2006 season? Was it good? Was it okay for you guys? So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you comment. I want to read that. And if you guys enjoyed content so far, make sure hit like, subscribe, click the notification bell down there so you can get notifications on daily uploads, and of course follow our Instagram page to post more personal stuff there like pictures, videos. Make sure follow us, going to be linked in the description down below. And again, thank you guys for 351 subscribers. Thank you to those people who are enjoying our content. If you're not enjoying our content, I don't know why you're subscribed, but I'm pretty sure you're enjoying it if you're subscribed. So thank you for liking, watching, and commenting on our videos. I really appreciate you guys. And that's it. Road to 1,000 subscribers. And in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, good night.